Welcome, welcome. How is everyone? How are you all doing? As you're coming in, just post a little message. Let me see, not a message, but something where you're coming in from. If this is your first time on one of my lives, and if you catch the replay, for those of you who catch this replay, do the same. I'd like to get to know you all a little bit more. I'm always seeing your comments and your emails. So I want to get to know you more also here on YouTube Live. And I know some of you are also coming over from Instagram. So yes, welcome, welcome. So tonight, and I'm actually going to want to start doing this a bit more because, as you know, typically I post my videos, but I also want to have a bit more lives so that we can have more conversations, because I know a lot of you have questions. I get your questions by email, which is absolutely fine. It's also welcome. But I know sometimes it's also nice to have that back and forth conversation. Excuse me, let me check my monitor. That back and forth conversation as well. So yes, set your alarm to Wednesday or Tuesday night, typically around this time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I'll always try to post it ahead of time so you can always hit the notification bell. All right, so let's just jump right into it. These lives are for Q&A, like I said, for questions that you have, that we can have that conversation live. But I also like to bring in some information, some education, some support as well. So the topic I wanted to pick today is a topic that kept coming up. People have been asking me questions about this, and I believe I did do a video on this before. But it's a topic, forgiveness, right? It's a topic that it never gets old, because we're always hearing different people's opinion. If you are a spiritual person, this is a topic that often comes up in spirituality. I'm a Christian myself, and I often hear it being spoken about. So I wanted to free you from the confusion about forgiveness tonight. That is my mission. So in addition to a Q&A and any questions you have, and like I said, for those of you who are, hello, Shan, welcome, welcome. For those of you who are catching the replay, right? Feel free to also put your comments and questions. So the topic for tonight is forgiveness. I want to free you from forgiveness. My goal for tonight is that you leave this live feeling clear about the term of forgiveness, okay? Shan, if you have any questions, I know you just came in. I was just saying, if any questions pop up, these lives are about Q&A for questions that you have, but I also want to bring you some information as well, right? So the topic for tonight is forgiveness, the good and bad about forgiveness. So if you know me, you know I like to always go back to definitions, because we live in a world, in an era, let me say that, where there's so much information, there's so much terminology that's being used, some of it overused, some of it trendy, right? Narcissism, toxic relationships. It's all very trendy, which is not bad, right? But it can be overused and it can be misused. And forgiveness, the word to forgive, I believe the reason a lot of people have issues with it is because they misuse it and they don't understand exactly what it is. Okay? So forgiveness, simple definition, it means to relinquish anger and resentment. It means to let it go, right? Now, if you look at that definition is about you. It's not about the other person, right? So if I did you wrong, let's use you for an example, Shan. If I did you wrong and you say, I'm going to forgive Nailah, it has nothing to do with Nailah. It's Shan releasing her anger towards me and towards the situation, towards the event, right? Where I offended you in some way, right? So it has nothing to do with me. And I think that is so powerful. And I think anytime someone uses the word forgiveness, or I forgive that person, or I should forgive that person, you have to think, what exactly does that mean? Because I believe 90% of the time people are using it in the wrong way. Okay, so if you're able to do that, you don't even have to watch the rest of this, although I encourage you to. But I think if you just go back to that definition and say, how am I using this? You won't have any more confusion about what forgiveness is about, okay? So as we're just having this conversation, the one thing I want you to keep in your mind is the definition. It means relinquishing your anger and your resentment. Now, the topic that I put for tonight is the good and bad about forgiveness. So I know people like to start with the bad news. I like to start with the good news, okay? So the good news about forgiveness is that when you relinquish anger about the situation or the person, it frees you. So forgiveness is a good thing. It is challenging. It is challenging because people are misusing it. It is challenging because in your mind, in many of our minds, for those of us who misuse the word, you're thinking, I can't forgive because then I'm letting them off the hook. But it has nothing to do with them. So the good news about forgiveness is that it frees you. Okay, it frees you from holding on to that anger, because the goal is to come out of, as we're talking about toxic relationships, right? The goal is to come out of that experience better and stronger, right? Not bitter. That's not the goal. And a lot of people come out bitter thinking that it's going to protect them. It makes them tough. It makes them strong. It's going to protect them from falling back into another toxic relationship. But if anything, it makes you more of a target, actually. Because when you are bitter and you go back out into the world, you're going to eventually date again, right? You're going to eventually get into a relationship again. And what you're doing is you're attracting more negativity because you're going out there negative, right? So the goal is not to come out of this bitter. The goal is to come out of this at peace, right? So good forgiveness is a good thing because it frees you of the anger and resentment. Now, let me add a little caveat to this. When we say relinquish the anger, you can relinquish the anger and resentment in two ways. You can relinquish it release it from the event, right? And you can release the anger from the person that caused the event, right? So if we're talking about toxic relationships, usually that includes some form of verbal abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, betrayal, right? Very hurtful experiences, right? And sometimes it is easy to release the anger from the event, accepting that it happened. It's in the past. I can't change it. However, sometimes there's still some resentment towards that person. Now, what I want to do for you tonight is I want to let you know that is normal, okay? Because I know there are people, institutions, communities, organizations, whoever, that's telling you you can't heal if you don't forgive, which means let go of all anger and resentment. And I'm a practical person, okay? I think it's unrealistic and I think it's unfair and I think it's actually even abusive to the person, the victim, if you want to use that term, to tell them that they can't heal because they have not forgiven the person, right? In my personal experience, I find it easier, and you can let me know what you think, Shan, Daniel, or who else is ever listening. I find it personally easier to relinquish the anger towards the event versus the person. Because, for example, in my case, I know people who I have considered to be narcissistic that maybe are not maybe, they're not hurting me anymore, but they are still out there hurting other people. It's like a mass murderer, right? That's how you got to look at these people, right? They may not have blood on their hands, but they are out there wreaking havoc on people, anyone they can get their hands on. So even though they may not be doing it to me anymore, but I know they're out there doing it to other people, if it's maybe, say, a family member and I hear stories, that is unsettling. And there is some resentment there that makes me feel like, oh, you're still out there doing that, right? Here's the thing. You want to get to a place, when we talk about healing, again, another trendy term that's used a lot. When you talk about healing, you want to get to a place, though, where you're not consumed with what that person is doing. That is the key. Yeah. So is it realistic to say you can forgive easily and let's say forgive the event, forgive the person. But if you know that person is out there, if someone tried to kill you, right? A mass murderer tried to kill you. They didn't succeed, but you know they're still out on the run. Anytime you hear that person's name or you hear that they're hurt after someone else, that's going to crawl your blood, right? I'm someone, I hate insects. I hate creepy, crawly things, right? The minute I see them, I'm like, ugh, right? I'm not thinking about a creepy, crawly insect all day and all night. It's not keeping me out of my sleep. But when I see one, I know what they're capable of. I know what that spider is capable of. So it crawls my blood when I see it, and I make sure I stay away, right? So is there still some resentment there towards the creepy crawlies? Yes, but I'm not consumed with it. That is the difference. That is a sign when you know you are healed. But don't let anyone tell you that you have to completely relinquish all resentment towards someone that you know is still out there harming people. I think that's unrealistic, and I think it's toxic to ask that of people. Okay? So that is one of the bad things is when, so we talked about the good thing about forgiveness. The bad thing is when it is used as a pass. So what do I mean by that? Forgiveness, again, when it's misused, it's not used for what the real definition is, it can be used as a pass for someone. So for example, let's see who's here with me. Daniel, if you do me wrong and I say I forgive you, right? I may be giving you a pass to come back into my life. I may be giving you a pass to still have access to me, right? I'm giving you a pass because I don't understand exactly what forgiveness is. I think forgiveness is allowing you to still be in my life in some form or capacity, even if I say we're not together anymore, right? But I still allow you to have access to me. Okay, that is misusing the term forgiveness. And that is a bad thing about the term forgiveness. That is something that goes wrong that a lot of people do. So you always have to go back to the definition. Forgiving someone does not mean you're giving them a pass back into your life. It just means that you have accepted the event or events that have happened, that have offended you, that have wronged you. You're not allowing it to consume you anymore. You have come to peace with it. Okay? Another bad about forgiveness is that sometimes you can use it, you as the victim, you as the one that have been wrong, you can use it as an excuse to make a wrong but comfortable decision. Well, what is that, Nailah? What are you talking about, a wrong but comfortable decision? For example, if you got cheated on, who's here with me? Shan. If you got cheated on and you decided to allow the person back into your life, right? They've been cheating on you. They're not showing any real signs of changing. They may be saying they are, but you've seen from their patterns of behavior, it's not really happening. But you allow them back into your life and say, well, I forgive them. You know, deep down inside, you just want to make a comfortable decision, right? And that comfortable decision is sticking with what you know. That comfortable decision is bringing that person back into your life because maybe you're afraid of being alone. Maybe you're afraid of raising the kids by yourself. Whatever it is, right? So it's not always about what other people are telling us. Sometimes we willingly make a wrong decision and then slap forgiveness on it to make it seem like I'm just being a good person. But really, you're making a decision that's actually not within your best interest, but it's comfortable for you because it's familiar to you, because it's scary to start over, because it's scary to try to raise a kid by yourself, right? So that's something that I know might sting a little bit, but if you really want to get to a place of living an authentic life, being real and genuine with yourself, being real and respectful to God, right? For what He wants for you. Is that what He would want for you, right? Instead of just slapping the term forgiveness on it so it doesn't seem like a bad decision. It just seems like you're being a good person, right? And that actually leads me to the next one. The next bad part about forgiveness is that manipulators will count on your unconditional loyalty to appear righteous, right? So that just piggybacks on what we just spoke about. What do I mean by that? Some of us have an unconditional loyalty to appear like good people. And it's really because you probably are a good person. I consider myself a good person. But sometimes that label that we put on ourselves of being a good person, being righteous, well, attempt to be as righteous as possible, right, is sometimes also a label other people have put on us. And God forbid, we make a decision that might change people's perspective of us because you've carried that label for so long. You don't want to ruin that track record that you've had. Right? Now, manipulative people know that about you. They're very good at sizing you up. They know that about you. So they're counting on, oh, she'll take me back, or she'll still deal with me. She'll still answer my call. She'll still let me in when I knock on the door. She'll still deal with me in some capacity because she doesn't want to seem mean. She wants to seem like a good person. So she's going to forgive me. Right? Now, here's how you shock manipulative people. First, you have to, again, go back to the definition. Forgiveness is not about giving them a pass. It's about you freeing yourself of that anger and having peace again within yourself, right? Now, here's where you shock manipulative, toxic, destructive, narcissistic, whatever you want to call them. You start setting boundaries. You become okay with them considering you not a good person. Don't have unconditional loyalty to righteousness, to appearing righteous. Let's say that, appearing righteous. Don't care about whether people consider you a good person or not. You know that you're a good person. And guess what? You can still be a good person, but have boundaries. You can still forgive and never talk to that person again. You can still forgive, but know that they're doing wrong to someone else or hear something about that they're doing, and it could still crawl your blood. The difference is you don't want it to consume you. The difference is you don't want to lose sleep about it at night, but you are a human being. The same way you can watch the news and watch CNN, hear bad news, and it does something to you. You're human. It's going to do something to you. As I said, don't let anyone tell you that you have to completely let go of all resentment. That's a lie. You're human, okay? If you hear something that's happening that's wrong, naturally, it's going to bother you. It's going to maybe sadden you. It's going to disappoint you, right? But the key is that you have so much inner peace and acceptance about accepting what happened to you in the past that the most you will do or the least you would do is pray for that person that's now the victim. Okay? But do not allow manipulators to use your need to appear righteous and them knowing they'll still give me access. You can set boundaries and still forgive. Okay? That is my message to you tonight. And for those of you, like I said, I am a Christian. For those of you who are spiritual, who are also Christians or maybe of another faith, but I think all faiths most faiths talk about forgiveness. We're only human. Exactly. Is that dirge? How do I pronounce that? We are only human. Yeah, that really upsets me when I hear people pressuring others to, oh, you gotta forgive, and then they're not even cognizant of exactly of what the word really is about. But let me get back to my point before I forget. For those of you who are spiritual like myself, I know in most faiths they talk about forgiving. But let me say this, in addition to what I already said. I can't speak for other books, but I know in the Bible, throughout the Bible, it is often talking about having peace and maintaining peace. That is what God wants for us. Yes, he wants us to be good people. He wants us to be kind. He does not want us to harbor anger, right? He talks about that. He does not want that. He wants us to be at peace. He wants us to give people grace, knowing that people can make mistakes. But he also wants us to be wise. He wants us to use discernment, right? And he wants us to maintain our peace. He wants us to live out the purpose that he has for our life. And if we choose to remain naive about what forgiveness even means, if we choose to turn a blind eye to someone that continues to mistreat us, we are choosing to allow people to distract us from our purpose. You can't live your purpose fully that he wants you to live if you are caught up in relationship problems. That's not what he wants for you, right? That's something that, and I'm not here to knock churches. I think church is great, but I do believe that sometimes church leaders are also misusing the word forgiveness. And I think people are choosing sometimes to listen too much to the church leaders as opposed to taking the Bible up themselves and reading for themselves, and not just reading about forgiveness, but just staying in the word to understand what God is talking about on a whole. Yes, he wants us to forgive, but he also wants us to be at peace. He also wants us to maintain our peace, and he also wants us to follow through with the purpose that he has for us and not be distracted by people who are inflicting evil acts, right? So that is a spiritual part of it. Dirge, what did you say? A lot of corruption going on. I see. Yes, makes me upset when I read and hear about it. I try not to pay much attention to it anymore. Yes, we have to be very careful about what we expose ourselves to. I'm one of those people, I don't believe in turning on the news first thing in the morning because of the way social media is. The minute you open YouTube or anything like that, these messages pop up, but you have to be very careful about what you expose yourself to. I know here we talk a lot about toxic relationships, but in general, we have to protect our peace because we're here for a bigger purpose. We're not here to just breathe, work, eat, sleep, get up and do it all over again, and then be caught up in things that's distracting us. There's so many distractions in this world. There's so many distractions the enemy uses to keep us from our purpose, to keep us from showing up in the way God wants us to show up, to serve. He doesn't want us to be distracted. Good morning, Kay Romulus. Where are you if you're saying morning? Where are you located? Wife and kids are the only thing I worried about now. Good. Very good, Dirge. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Dirge? Kay Romulius, where are you? Where are you coming in from? And is this your Dirge? Okay, I said it correct. Good. Where are you guys coming in from? And is this your first time on this channel? Kansas. Oh, you just woke up. But what time is it in Kansas right now? Your first time, Dirge. All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. North Carolina. I love North Carolina. Great state. I lived in Raleigh for 2 years and loved it. And anytime anyone talks about moving to the US, I always suggest North Carolina. Great place. And Kansas, is that Central Standard Time? So you're like 3 hours behind? Who else is here with us? And for those of you that catch this replay, let me know where you're coming in from as well, if it's your first time here. And are you in a toxic relationship, or have you been in a toxic relationship that brought you here, or you just came here just by coincidence? That's okay too. Raleigh. Really? Raleigh's kind of bad right now. Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah, times are changing. I had a girlfriend just tell me today that, was it Tennessee, she said, just passed a law for all teachers from kindergarten to 12th grade to be able to carry a gun because of all the school shootings. I mean, what is the world coming to that teachers are told that they can bring a gun with them to class? That's just crazy. That is crazy. Whew. Yeah, we just got to stay in prayer. We have to stay in prayer and educate our children and educate others too. Whatever you know, you share it with others and stay in prayer because a lot of it is out of our control. It's wild, wild, wild. Yes. We have to educate. We have to educate. There's always something you know that others don't know, and vice versa. And we have to share that. We have to share it. Keep each other lifted and aware and hopeful. All right, I don't want to keep this too long for the people that catch the replay. I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any questions for those of you that are catching the replay, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'll be more than glad to answer. It could be questions about the topic of forgiveness, and it could be questions about anything else related to toxic relationships, healing, moving forward, and personal growth, because that's essential what we're here about. All right, thank you so much for joining me, Dirge, Romulius, Shan. You all have a great, great evening, and I'll catch you next time.